work. I love you, Ethan. I miss you so much. I'm sending tons of kisses.
Ethan. You were right. I did lie to you. I shouldn't have. All I can say is that if you get this, stay away.
All right, everyone. Welcome back. We're pretty happy to be back, actually. Last week was an amazing episode. Yeah, elated is to say the least. We got a lot of love for that last episode, retro episode. We really went to our roots. We definitely gonna have a part 2 coming up. We just definitely got to get the video together and the gameplay. But for this week, we figured we'd pivot just a little bit. We're still gonna be in the retro scene, sort of, because the company we're talking about spans decades, right? Just like most of the heritage companies that are around right now. And that company's Capcom. We're going to talk about Capcom this episode, guys.
This party's getting crazy. Let's rock.
One of the most reputable names out there. One of the most reputable,
I think they're a solid game company. They did have a hiccup for a little bit with the later Resident Evil games.
Yes, that's true. Yeah,
well, not the later ones.
5 and 6.
After 4, 5, 6. They really had kind of like a hiccup. They had a few Resident Evil Revelations. They
tried to become a Michael Bay of gaming.
Yeah. They really struggled, but they
all the
really
weird
recovered.
spin-offs.
They recovered amazingly with the invention of the RE engine and Resident Evil 7. Really just transformed what they do from Monster Hunter to Devil May Cry to Resident Evil. So, but we're going to start off in the earlier years. We're going to start off at the root of Capcom, what made them, right? Now, there are probably a lot of franchises. You got Ghosts and Goblins that a show mentioned last week as one of the games he used to play. On the Super Nintendo, but there's a lot of franchises when it comes to Capcom. But we'll start with Mega Man and Street Fighter, right? What's better than these two?
Classics.
And as a kid, I remember playing a ton of Mega Man. I had it on my Game Boy, and Mega Man was awesome. I love the fact that there are rumors that they're going to bring it back, and they're already working on a new one. I think it's much deserved, and obviously we all got word with Street Fighter, which I am super hyped for. I love the new look.
That's right. It looks
What do you
fantastic.
guys think about that?
It was just a very brief clip that they released, but still the animation already looked like insane.
I think part of it has to do with the fact that we see trailers for games now, and we know that that's going to be the game.
Yeah.
Like before in the early 2000s, mid 2000s, there were a lot of times you would see the trailer and you knew that was not the game, not even close. There was just a CGI animation trailer to hype the game up. And it was just leagues ahead of what the game actually would be. Like Show said, box hands, box fists. And it's just, it's time that we appreciate the fact that whenever we see something get teased, chances are that's the game. And if that's what Street Fighter is going to look like going forward, boy, we're in for a doozy with that.
It was Rio that they showed in that little, at least for the footage that I saw. I don't know if it was the same thing you saw, but like Rio looked like insane. It looked phenomenal.
It's always Ryu, man.
I mean, Rio, whatever.
Poster boy.
Tomato.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same shit. But yeah, he's a poster boy for the franchise, really. So
I mean, just look at everything that they've had over the years. On PlayStation 2, I remember playing Street Fighter EX3, which was one of my favorite ones. It's like the first Street Fighter I was really introduced to. I'm sure you guys have played the Street Fighters in the arcade, and the one with the 6 buttons and the joystick, and you're like slapping shit.
Dave and Buster's back in the day would play that in Tekken on and off.
Arcade sticks.
Yes, exactly. Like we all remember that. That's what I remember for Street Fighter. But in terms of console Street Fighter, I wasn't introduced to any of it until Street Fighter EX3 on PlayStation 2, and boy, that was an amazing game. And it really introduced me to what Street Fighter was about in terms of all the characters. They had little backstory chapters every time you beat the game with a character. They had a little cutscene. And I remember the end boss was Garuda. One of the bosses was Garuda. And I remember I loved Garuda. Like his special he was awesome, bro. And I can't wait to see what they do with all these characters. Skullomania, you got Blanca, you got, there's so many characters in the Street Fighter universe that are amazing. And
iconic too.
Yeah, you're gonna see a lot of special things with that coming up. So I'm excited for the future of Street Fighter. We have to give them props. Capcom really got something special there. What are you guys expecting from a Street Fighter? Like, do you think that they should add a different element to it, like a story mode, kind of what Injustice
well, I mean,
does?
I was gonna say, I feel like like what Injustice and Mortal Kombat have kind of done, like the NetherRealm, studio has kind of done over the years. I think is a good model to go by, because I think they're probably the most, I guess, the best sort of fighting games you could point to nowadays as like a model to go by. So I mean, definitely
the only companies to really execute on the story of a fighting game.
Yeah, and do it well too. Like they actually did it well with like the ladder system, and like all that stuff.
Expansions.
Like, yeah, exactly. So if they took that mold, because definitely nowadays, I feel like nowadays, I feel like just a fighting game, like you couldn't charge, I think, $60 just for a fighting game anymore. You know what I mean? Like you need like more shit than just that. In my opinion,
I think back then the allure of it being $60 is that you had it at home, and because fighting games were always in the
arcades,
the pizzerias, the arcades,
the
Dave
back
and
then they
Buster's,
weren't
the Chuck E.
$60,
Cheeses. Yeah, exactly. So but to have it at home, it was like, okay, you got all these characters at home, you can play with your friends at home. Yeah, give me $60 in a 3D fighting game. That's it. I'm good. But nowadays, that's not enough. There's too much creativity out there. And yeah, I think you're right. NetherRealm has definitely changed the game for fighting games.
Oh, and don't forget, bro. Not to cut you off, my bad to cut you off,
No,
but
go ahead, bro.
with Street Fighter 5, the way they did it with the whole DLC shabaku, where it wasn't a full roster, you only had like 5 characters or 6
like
characters,
microtransactions and shit.
Yeah.
See, that was 2016. That was back when that shit was really big. That's like when that was like now. I think gaming companies know better. Yeah.
It made no sense because no one liked it. We all hated it. We all
bro, it was bullshit, bro. It's like, all right, I paid you $60 and you gave me 6 characters, and then you want me to pay like $5 for the rest of the roster?
Yeah,
you kidding me?
Now there are certain games that do that, and I could care less. Smash Bros, Super Smash Bros.
Yeah.
But that's completely different.
Yeah,
Smash Bros has a whole roster of 40 people.
Yeah, exactly. And then they introduce all these fighter packs as time goes on. But Street Fighter didn't do that when it first came out.
Bro,
much more bare bones.
All they gave you was the multiplayer and whatever characters. There was no arcade. There was no, no story.
It was tough, man. It was
none
tough.
of that stuff. All you had was the online and practice, and then whatever characters was in the base game. That's it.
Now,
everything else came over time.
Now, if we look at what they've done in recent years, now remember, when's the last time they made a Street Fighter game?
2016.
They haven't made one since. So they've had all this time. Now, it's not like that's all they've released. They've released many other titles that have each, in their own right, exceeded expectations and been amazing games.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? You started with RE7, Resident Evil 7, right?
Great game.
And
love
honestly,
that game.
it's gonna be considered. Let's go 20 years from now. If we look at all the Resident Evil games, it's gonna be the original. Now, for us growing up, RE1, right? Resident Evil 1 was the game that started it off. It was the game with the amazing atmosphere. It was the poster child for horror games when it came out. Everything wanted to emulate it. You look at Silent Hill games going forward, they all wanted to emulate Resident Evil. A lot of games are influenced. Exactly. The fixed camera going down the hallway, right? But they did evolve with RE4 with the over the shoulder, right? But then they decided to change it up again for something that was worth it.
Yeah,
much more close, impersonal first-person view.
Honestly, I was a bit taken aback by the first person because it just felt weird. Like, I don't know, just the Resident Evil franchise in first person just didn't seem like it would click for me. But then, like, once you get enough into the game, like, it just sucks you in. And it's so well done. Like, the gunplay is really good. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like everything about it, like the switching between the weapon, like everything is so well put together that I was just like, it blew me away. And like, honestly, like I loved Village also, but if I had one complaint about Village is like, I wish almost it was more in like the scary sense of like, Resident Evil 7
you got too powerful in Village.
Yeah. And also, and that, yes, you got too powerful. And also I think it, not that I'm criticizing it for it, but it definitely took more after Resident Evil 4 and being, I think, more of like an actiony entry in the franchise. You know what I mean? Like it definitely had its horror. I mean,
it had the same cult type of atmosphere.
Yeah, it was
too,
like it was a spiritual successor to like the fourth one for sure.
Exactly.
In that sense. And I definitely don't fault it for that, but I think coming off of like Resident Evil 7 kind of like revamping the whole franchise in terms of a horror elements, like getting back to the grassroots, like creepy as fuck, like horror elements, like I think they should have stuck with that a bit more instead of just like
letting you go gung-ho and
and don't get me wrong, I loved Village. It was amazing really fun. It was really fun. It was a great game.
We're just talking about tone. honestly.
Yeah.
That's all we're
Mhm.
talking about.
Yeah.
But like in terms of where they're going forward, right? So you had Resident Evil 7, you had the intro. I think when it came to the intro in that game, because I really do want to mention the intros to Resident Evil, it's been a staple of like all of the games.
Oh yeah, they're always
RE4,
creepy
when
as
you're
hell.
going into, you're getting driven in by these two. I don't remember if they were reporters or they were people in the area, but they were driving you to the village.
Yeah.
Right where you were. Epic entrance. You're going through the village. It's all eerily quiet. You don't know what's going on. That it's a Resident Evil game, so you're gonna get scared. But they really did a great job of, in that first initial opening section, really putting attention on you and moving you through it at a slow pace. Obviously, notorious for being a very slow paced game. Whenever you shot, you had to stop. You couldn't move.
Right. That's right. That's
If
right.
you guys
Yeah.
remember that,
You had to
that
stay
was
still.
yeah, and it kind of it grounded you. It was very smart. They did it for a reason because it grounded you and it made you, if you're gonna plant your feet here and take a stand,
You gotta
you have to
commit.
stay here. And they're gonna keep approaching you,
Yeah, we
but
gotta
you have to
commit
hold
to
your
it.
ground.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a great mechanic. I love that mechanic. And in terms of the first person, a lot of people have to remember also the VR version for Resident Evil 7.
Oh
If you
my
guys
god.
haven't
That's
had
right.
a chance to play it, I've tried the VR version of Resident Evil 7.
I don't
No
own that
way.
version, but I tried it. But
It is an unreal experience. Show, if you ever come to my house next time, I will hook up the PSVR to the
Bro.
PS5, which apparently it runs way better. You do not know what it's like to play RE7 in VR. The gun in front of you. You can peek under tables. You can peek around doors. You can do anything as
I'm
if
gonna be
you're a
scared,
person in the
bro.
house.
yeah,
You
but
can
then
barely
you'll feel
move.
alive though.
You can barely move in the first section, right? So you can see that the opening sections have been prevalent throughout all of them, including from RE8 when you're first going into that village and it's nighttime, right?
Yeah, that
Your
scene's very
daughter just
creepy.
got taken. That opening scene in the dark. And you just got the werewolf or whatever. I believe it's one of the werewolves.
Yeah, well, because it's the girl and her father who like let you in, right, or something like that.
Yeah,
He's,
yeah, they let you in, and you're just kind of, and I think they all got killed. Like
and she can't hold on for shit and falls into the fire, and then you go meet those people. Yeah.
Oh my god, I remember that scene.
I thought that was so unnecessary that she fell into the fire. I was like, seriously, bitch, I can't hold on. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah, man. I mean, that whole section is just perfect. It's just perfectly executed. But like I was saying, when you're down in that basement in the opening, and you hear that beast pounding around upstairs, and you're downstairs, and you know damn well you have to go back upstairs because there's nothing else for you down there. You have to go back up, and you go up, and then everything's just torn apart. The realism of the fabrics, of the shelving, of the cutlery, everything that was around you, the broken wood, the splintered wood. You have the snow that you were walking through, the sound of rustling trees on either side as you're walking. They really mastered audio for this game differently than even in RE7 because it was much more contained space in the house. There wasn't a lot of outdoor listening. There were outdoor sections, but most of it was in the mines at the end, and you had the house at the beginning. So it was really contained in terms of the audio experience. This game is a lot of it's outside, so there's a lot of rustling going on. There's a lot of little noises that you might hear. And they also evolved the gameplay in terms of things that you can do with the environment, right? Like you can close doors. You can I think you can deboard windows. I think I remember you can deboard windows in the beginning, and you can board them back up if you wanted to keep them from getting in. And there's so many different things you can do. I really love where RE8 went. I do agree, a little bit more actiony than we could have wanted, but at the end of the day, we know that they're gonna take different approaches to each game.
Yeah.
Right. And who knows where they go with Resident Evil 9? I haven't really heard much about what it could be. I've heard a lot of rumors, nothing really solid yet. So we're not gonna speculate. We don't want to waste your guys' time.
Yeah.
We're just gonna leave it at that. Resident Evil, awesome. I loved RE1. I remember that. RE2 was great. The remakes.
And I'm gonna say I got to give some love to those remakes.
Excuse me, is everything okay?
Stay back, man. I got this.
I said get off him!
And that's like honestly, that's where like I feel like I really got like re-immersed back into the franchise when I got the Resident Evil 2 remake because I played them a lot like back in the day, like on like PlayStation, like my friend's house on the GameCube. I played Resident Evil 4, And when the Resident Evil 2 remake came out, I remember like playing that and just got like so sucked into it. Like just like, like I haven't been with a game in a long time, and it's just like it blew me away how good it was. And like the Resident Evil 3 remake was good. It was a little bit, it wasn't as
more
good.
actiony.
Yeah, again, it was
they're doing.
It wasn't as good. It also was a lot shorter than the second one. Like the second one, like you had to play it through twice, because you had to play it through as Leon and then you had to play it through as Claire. You know what I mean? So like you had to play it twice to really get the full story of the game, which I loved. You know what I mean? Seeing different perspectives and everything, and the way they did the ground up remake like that was just like it looked so good. Is everything about it, the Nemesis system, was so well done. The way they designed, Mr. X, the giant guy who's chasing you the whole game, like scary, fucking scary with the headphones on.
Man,
like you hear them,
when
when
he pops up on you in the
helicopter, when he like lifts the helicopter and then
just so crazy. Whenever he would pop up on you, and sometimes you'd be in another room and you'd hear the pounding steps coming,
and that would just terrify you.
To the wall.
You wouldn't know what to do.
Door.
It would genuinely. That's what I loved those. It genuinely sent like a chill down your spine. Like it actually made you feel something, which I loved. You know what I mean? It's just like it's so rare that like games actually are able to really do that. I feel like nowadays that is like.
What the hell is that thing?
I love the remakes. I love the RE2 and RE3 remakes. I never played a single Resident Evil game except for Resident Evil 1 until the RE2 remake came out. Now, actually, that's a lie. I played RE4 on Switch a year ago or a year or two ago. Actually, during pandemic, I was playing RE4 on Switch, and I actually loved it. I actually enjoyed it. It was actually really good on Switch, man. They really optimized the controls and everything for the Switch. And it's a great handheld experience. I was just, on the couch while everybody's watching TV, headphones in, playing RE4. The graphics are not that good to begin with, and it was better than the Wii experience, I can tell you that. So it was like, I loved it. I really enjoyed it. That's the only one I played. And even then, it was 4. I really didn't know anything about the story. I had watched the movies. They don't really matter,
Yeah.
They
don't. Not at all. They're not connected to the games at all.
Exactly. So just the character, but like, playing RE2 remake was the first time I was like, okay, this is from 1. Like all I remember is 1, the mansion popping up, stars coming in, investigating the first team that came in they lost contact with.
We don't know where Barry is.
Is everyone all right?
Barry. Where's Barry? He's...
No. What was that?
I'll go and check it out.
All right. Jill and I will stay and secure this area.
You're going into the house, you get attacked by dogs right away, right? Like that. I remember that whole game, playing it with my uncle when we were younger.
I'll never forget that scene.
You gotta love it.
I also want to thank the Resident Evil 2 remake, because I played that. I actually was an idiot and slept on Resident Evil 7 and didn't play it when it came out, because I think like after Resident Evil, I played Resident Evil 6 when that came out. And I remember
insane.
Like it just kind of like Resident Evil 6. I just remember like being fed up with the franchise, because like 5 and 6 were like very like action focused, and like I remember getting Resident Evil 6 on my Xbox 360 and just like I didn't even finish the game. I think I was just kind of like bored with it, and I was like, "Oh, this isn't even like that good." And so when 7 came out, I kind of thought the franchise was just dead, and I'm like, "Oh, they're going to first person. That doesn't sit well with me." I was like, "Whatever." So I skipped it, didn't play it. I don't think I played it actually until like I didn't play it till the pandemic. I didn't play it till the pandemic because like 2020.
Oh, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, so like
that's awesome.
So like no, exactly. So I played like Resident Evil 2 remake and then Resident Evil 3 remake, and I'm like, well, I'm on a roll. I might as well jump back into Resident Evil 7, and then I played 7, and then by the time I finished that, Village came out, and then I played Village.
Dude, you had an amazing experience.
It was great. Oh, it was such a great number of weeks. It was amazing.
Oh, that's greatness, man. Because RE8, I remember the lead up to RE8. I was so happy. I was so excited because RE's back,
Yeah.
And they're killing it with every game. So you know that going forward, they're just gonna get better and better and better. But that leads me into the execution, right? The change, the facelift that Capcom got. A lot of franchises benefited from it, but one of the ones that I want to mention, my favorite Capcom franchise that really benefited from this facelift, Devil May Cry.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I love Devil May Cry.
Yeah, he's a real pro at smacking demons around. That's why I built him that well-functioning arm. To kick demon ass.
This is a classic series that's very near and dear to my heart. Like I said in the last retro episode, it was one of the first games that I played for PS2. I did sneak a lot of the hours for that game because the game was very, very dark. I believe I deceived my mom into thinking that it was just a normal game, that it wasn't anything crazy. It had guns in the front, but I told her there was no blood, nothing like that. And she believed me, and I ended up bringing the game home, and I would only play it in my room at night. And it was a surreal experience, the first Devil May Cry on PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
So definitely wanted to give a call back to that game. Devil May Cry 2, a lot of people didn't really like. They thought it changed it up to very corporate, right? I believe the boss was a corporate guy. Mundo was the main boss, but it was a version of him that was like a corporate boss, and he was just really like evil in that way. And you fought like tanks, and you fought like just a bunch of weird crap that just didn't make sense for the Devil May Cry series.
Yeah.
And then Devil May Cry 3 came out. Wow. I mean, what can you say? That if you guys haven't played Devil May Cry 3, that is one of the best Devil May Cry experiences.
Dante's Awakening.
Because I'm going to mention a few in a second that were also great. But I love Devil May Cry 3. I loved the fact that was the first one where at the end they introduced a Virgil version of the game to play through, where you could get Virgil and you could play through a series of events that were kind of similar, but mostly similar actually, but just very slightly different. And you had, obviously the story was great between brother and brother. They were younger. It was a prequel, so it was just Dante's awakening into what he became as a demon. I love the aspect that they did with them fighting each other and how they each had different ideologies and they really clashed, because they didn't really introduce that in the first two. So it was a really good dive into making Dante more human and more relatable, with him fighting his brother. So it was great. And then you obviously got, if you guys remember Devil May Cry 4, a lot of people didn't actually it was a great game. Okay. I loved it. I loved it, but it's not talked about a lot after it came out compared to the other Devil May Cries.
I guess because you're not Dante,
Yeah, it's Nero, but I love Nero.
I was gonna say I like Nero. I think he's a great character. I like Nero.
I thought his story, his character was very anime-ish. It was very cliche for an anime show. The scene where there's the fighting scene towards the middle of the game where he's fighting through a bunch of demons to get to Kyrie, which is his love interest. And he's just taking his demon arm and he's clashing through, and he reaches through everyone to reach and get her. And it's just such an iconic Devil May Cry moment. You get to go back to a castle in that game, which was awesome. Everyone loved that you can go back to a castle. You hadn't been back to a castle since DMC 1. DMC 2, DMC 3. Actually, DMC 3 was kind of castle, but it was like a tower. It wasn't the same. Like it had the fourth one really lets you go back into a castle setting, and really dive into the theories and the conspiracies with the church, that was around in that game. But I love the Kyrie thing. What'd you guys think about DMC 4?
I liked it. I mean, I replayed it before Devil May Cry 5 came out, and it was good. I mean, I guess I was viewing it through a different lens then, because it had been a while since I had originally played it.
I don't know what it was about it. I didn't push myself through the story as much as the other ones, but I still loved Nero. I loved his sword. I loved the revving of it. I loved all the moves. I loved all of those things. And then to get to play Dante at the end, but then to have to go through the same exact environments and to go through the same exact kind of, you feel like you're repeating everything. You're slogging through the same field you just went through. That's where it kind of killed it for a lot of people.
Yeah, I get that.
For me too. But then they did their best, and the gameplay was great. The story could have been better in terms of how they structured it.
For me, though, the series in general is always going to be good no matter what, as long as you can just zone out, hack and slash, and listen to the music. Because to me, it's always the combination, the 1-2 factor of the music and the gameplay just go so well together that even if to me the story most of the time is good, so that's an added bonus. But really you could just keep throwing levels at me with no story, and I could give a shit. You know what I mean? And I could just listen to the music and just is mess up all these demons or whatever, and it'll be fun. You know what I mean? So
that takes me in to the gem the absolute gem of a game that DMC5 was.
What the hell? You a demon?
Nero, the food's getting
Trinity, get back inside now!
I'm taking this back. I'm running out of time.
I know. I loved it so much.
What do you guys go ahead? What do you guys want to
good.
say about DMC5?
Well, I just had like such an amazing time playing, and like just talking about it now is making me just think, man, I really should go back and replay it because it's been a minute. You know, I mean, go back. I mean, just everything like this all the different. It was such a versatile game. Like all the different three different characters to like play as, and then like all different like three different styles like per character basically. You know, like so many different styles to like fight with basically.
Yeah,
You know, like
it was awesome.
yeah, like fucking Dante with like his motorcycle versus like the demon version or whatever, and like Nero with all his like, different arms and stuff, and V with like all the the familiars, the animals that you're just like throwing at your enemies. It's like so much versatility, and like
By the way,
again,
we won't say anything, but the twist in that game was awesome.
oh my god,
I
amazing,
mean,
amazing.
just knowing what happens, and we really don't want to spoil it, but we'll do it at the same time. But just knowing the twist in that game just really brought you to where we are right now with Capcom. We went into DMC, Devil May Cry 5, expecting an awesome hack and slash game, but we forgot where Capcom was, and we forgot that they're not just this random company that makes great games and there's no depth to them. The story was awesome.
Yeah.
Right. The jumping back and forth, as much as some people didn't like it, very few, but that they're a minority for a reason. Like everyone loved the way they bounced from point to point to relate to it and move the story forward. Right. There were a couple times I believe where they went back and you had to like go through the little tower again. And I go through the top, like as each character, you have to do it as Nero, you have to do it as Dante, you have to do it as V, right? They went through the same sections, but the gameplay for each character is so varied and so different. It was refreshing to go through the same environment with the same character because you had to master each one. Each one had bosses, right? The bosses in that game were awesome.
The cutscenes were insane. Yeah, like
the skin, the hair,
and it's always been like that throughout the games.
Yeah, but I feel like with the advent of the new technology and the new engine, they were
what
really
was the
able
name?
to flesh it out.
What was the name of the girl who drives the van? I forget her name. But
I forgot her name. She was awesome too.
I remember this one scene in particular where like when she's like driving and like you're playing as Nero and you're kind of like fighting as she's like driving and like just like the way that I remember like specifically like as the way they animated like that cutscene like with like the van like like spinning in the air and just barely missing like all these things and like Nero just moving intricately around like in slow motion as being like like the the meme when the guy with the space meme from like Tim and Eric when he's just like
yeah.
You know what I mean? That's like that's how my brain felt.
It's just mind blowing.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Devil May Cry, baby. That
so
opening
beautiful
scene when Nero jumps out of the car and literally just steps on the faces and shoots multiple demons on his way to landing back in the car as she like turns it at a perfect angle for him to land back into the window, and then they keep driving. That's just an awesome opening scene. Beautiful. And that really set the tone for the whole game. So going forward, we obviously know we love DMC5 and we love the direction that they took, right? But they also took a lot of risks with DMC5 and the story structure could have been a lot better. What do we think about DMC6 and what they could possibly do with that?
I mean, who knows what they're going to do story-wise? I mean, I guess we don't even want to say too much because we don't want to spoil it for those who haven't played. But I mean,
DMC5 is still pretty fresh. So.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. But I mean, they can go in a lot of different directions. I mean, I think as long as they keep like the bandit characters we've come to like really embrace over like not Resident Evil, wow, Devil May Cry 5, as long as they keep that like band like people together and keep like the gameplay consistent and like up the graphics and up the insanity and like keep the music awesome and keep the hack and slash like as good as it has been. I think
keep it as the focus.
Yeah, and if they learn from the mistakes they made in the last one with the story, just improve it a little bit, tune things up a little bit. I think there's there's serious potential, and I really look forward to what they do because it's only going to look better. You know what I mean?
I would love for now. Capcom's obviously they're doing it already, right? So I would love for them to remake Devil May Cry 1. I'm sorry. If they could remake that game from the ground up, give it the RE2 treatment.
Yeah, I would love that. That'd be awesome.
Give it the RE2 treatment. That would God, come on. Go back to that game and imagine a remake from the ground up for Devil May Cry.
Especially with like current gen.
Oh
Jesus.
man, and the end fight when you're the demon flying around and you're fighting Mundo and you're just like, you're throwing signs at him, magic signs that are like, demolishing this. They could completely redo that fight. There was the underwater scenes that they had where you would be swimming and you had to shoot the needle gun, but you'd have to get the needle gun to hurt enemies underwater. And then you had the beginning scene going into the castle, right? The puppets. Like if they could remake the puppets and it's just, I'm sorry, but that would rake in the cash.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That would rake in the cash.
It would, yeah.
Especially now that DMC5 had the original director, just working on the game, original game director from the first game. Like it oozed Devil May Cry throughout it, the whole game. In terms of the 60 frames per second, if you ever get to play it on PS5, I highly recommend the 120 frames per second mode, which hits it most of the time, but who cares? It's like 110 frames per second. That's amazing for DMC. I recommend that. But yeah, going forward, I'm really excited for Devil May Cry. And I think it's very deserving of a section on this episode when it comes to talking about Capcom. I think it's at the top.
That's a statement.
But in terms of what we've been talking about lately, I mean, there's not much else to bring up when it comes to Capcom, but there's tons of excitement because of how they've executed in all their games. So you do have this game called Pragmata coming out on PS5 for Capcom, and it's supposed to be a new sci-fi action adventure. The trailer is very ambiguous. It's very hard to understand what's going on, but it looks awesome. You have this little girl and there's an astronaut and you're like in space and the dude has a spear and it's great. It looks awesome. There's probably going to be, I hope it's not walking simulator vibes.
Oh, no.
Where you're just transporting a girl, but so far it looks very sci-fi action and we'll see more about it probably this summer coming up. We'll probably get a gameplay preview if we can get a Capcom show around E3 time because unfortunately E3 has been canceled, guys.
Bullshit.
RIP E3. It was a great era, but Sony really killed them when they first decided to do their own show. Nobody cared about E3 anymore. Because let's face it, Xbox hasn't really been executing, but for Forza Horizon is doing great, so kudos to that. But we'll see how their original franchise is going forward. You got the new Fable game coming out, and you got obviously the new Bethesda game Starfield. So we'll see how that goes.
Elder Scrolls. Don't forget Elder Scrolls.
That's in 2032, so I'm not really looking forward to that right now. Who knows when that's gonna come out?
I'll be an old man when it finally drops.
But definitely there's a lot with Capcom to mention and a lot to hope for in the future. But it's been a great time talking about this. I mean, Resident Evil, we could talk for days about that, and we could talk for days about Devil May Cry as well. But this is definitely just like an overview of the franchise as a whole. Actually, game company as a whole, and what they have coming up. And I think there's a lot of excitement, and it was awesome talking about it with you guys. If you guys like the content, you guys enjoyed it, definitely drop the like and subscribe in the bottom. Leave a comment on what games you think we might have missed and what you think we should talk about. Also, drop some comments below if you guys think you want to give a suggestion for any retro games you want in the next retro episode, because we're definitely running a part 2 for that. We did get a lot of love for that episode. And once again, this is me, Chris. Got Brendan on one mic and Show on the other.
And this
is Filmic Gaming Podcast, guys. Peace out.